support. Your monthly subscriptions help the channel greatly, so thank you. This is the monthly Tarotscope for the sign of Aquarius for the month of October 2020. This is for anybody with Aquarius sun, moon, or rising, or heavily placed planets in the sign of Aquarius. You may want to watch this. It might give you some insight into potentially what you could be dealing with in the month of October. It is a broad spectrum reading for, a multitude of people. So kind of take what you need and leave the rest. It's just to give you sort of insight and validation on things maybe you've already known or suspected, were happening. Utilize that as a, utilize the reading as a sort of a form of validation, support, that sort of thing. If anything that you see here, you choose to go into your life and make decisions around that, that would be your responsibility. So keeping that in mind too. And beyond that, let's see what's going on for my Aquarians. So for the month of October, I thought I would go back to the Witchwood Oracle decks that I have. I have an unboxing video on my channel. And so for the air signs, I decided to do, because we're in Libra season, happy birthday Libras, I decided to do this Miss Mai's Victorian Oracle. So this first card is sort of like our guide for the month of October. It's something to reflect upon, connect to, focus upon, or it may signify a theme that my Aquarians are feeling or facing during the month of October. But it's just to give us a little insight. So let's see what that is. Oh, and please, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you'd like on the YouTube channel, or follow my business page on Facebook. I greatly appreciate that. So let's see. I do have a chat window up. If you are chatting, I can't see it because I have the window down, minimized, so that I don't get sidetracked and start answering questions. I'm going to focus on the reading. So I'm not ignoring you guys, just so you know. Okay. Well, maybe I am ignoring you. Okay, so this is the Birdcage. Card number 3. Why do I feel like my Aquarians might feel a little trapped? Obviously, because it's a birdcage, Dan. That might be it. It's interesting, too, because we had the number 3 come up in the Libra reading, too. In the cards through the center, I noticed came down, boiled down numerologically to a 3. And we have this 3 card here. So we have 3s happening for the air signs. We'll see what goes on with Gemini next to see if there's a significant 3 that shows up there. But with this birdcage, I kind of get a feeling that some of you might be feeling stuck, or there's an opportunity to maybe free yourself from a situation. And you might be able to set those plans in motion in the month of October. But I don't necessarily get the sense as I'm looking at this birdcage, I don't feel like my Aquarians are fully free by, during October. Does that make sense? So I feel like you might be witnessing or becoming aware of this cage, or where you may be stuck or caged in your life. And it may be, as I'm looking at this card, sort of where my mind is taking me, or where, I'm kind of flowing towards, is that some of us might be awakening to cages that we didn't know existed, right? Like, it could be a relationship, a friendship, family relationships, or jobs, anything, where all of a sudden we start to see, wait a second, is this really what I thought it was, right? Before it was maybe a place of safety or security, and now it's maybe not, right? Now it might be something that's like holding us in, keeping us stuck, that kind of a thing. And sort of awakening up to that, and then hopefully maybe figuring out first steps in the month of October of what we need to do about this said cage, okay? That's kind of where I'm taking this. But let's see what the cards have to say, because that will give me a better insight into where this birdcage plays in for this month of October. But being mindful of where we may be held back, it's funny, like I look at this and I get this like painted into a corner situation where my Aquarians are like, wait, this isn't working for me anymore. I thought this was good. That's kind of a feeling I get. I have an Aquarius moon, so I'm like, oh god. Great. It's not a bad card at all. I just sort of feel like it's an awakening. us realizing that, oh, this isn't the situation this isn't all it's cracked up to be. I need more, or I need something different. I need freedom, you know? Some of you might be just at your wit's end with quarantine and politics and whatnot. You know, who knows what this might be for each and every one of you. But you'll have to figure that out. If there's something that sort of comes to your awareness as being more of a hindrance than a help, that would be your birdcage this month. Let's just say that. It may have supported you at one point in time, but I get a feeling that it's like it's not supporting you in the way that you need anymore. All right, so let's see what's going on for my Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. All right, so this first card is sort of where you guys are centered at during the month of October. It's not necessarily where you'll be the entirety of the month, but it gives me insight into sort of where you're kind of operating from the majority of the month and sort of what you could be potentially creating moving into the future. So this is the Four of Swords. I like this card for you guys, obviously because it is an air element card, so it's right in your wheelhouse. It is in natural alignment with who you guys are. To me, it feels a little bit conflicted, those four swords going in opposite directions. I feel like Aquarius, of the like sort of air signs, you guys tend to want to be the most expansive, right? And the most like have the biggest impact on the world, invoke like inspirational change, that sort of thing. To me, this Four of Swords, it kind of feels like this birdcage a little bit, actually, a little bit tied in, a little bit like these four swords feel like they're conflicting. The Four of Swords is traditionally like a time of respite, right? Or a time of going inward, mentally rejuvenating oneself through rest, contemplation, maybe even meditation, but it's about sort of taking that time for yourself. When I look at this coupled with this birdcage, though, it does feel like there is a constraint going on that we might be wrestling with. I don't think it's a bad thing, though, right? Because this is a swords card. I feel like this is something that we need to address to bring about, fours also to me always bring about this idea of stability, right? I always say four legs on a table make that table a stable surface. So it's kind of like whatever might be constricting us, or paying attention to that, being really acutely aware of that, and how we interact with that is going to be key this month. That's sort of the feeling that I get with this birdcage and this Four of Swords. It's like, how are we operating in our world, or are we even able to operate with the freedom that we would like, right? If we're not able, then how do we go about successfully navigating that? The thing is with the Four of Swords, like I said, it's always about this idea of rest, right? I think that my feeling here as I'm looking at these is like, we want to interact, how do I want to say this? We want to be aware of what limits us, but we don't want to interact with it in a way that it continues to limit us even stronger. Does that make sense? Like, I get this feeling that there is this opportunity here to free ourselves in some way, shape, or form. It may not come in the month of October, it might be the following month, but it's really key how we do that. And the reason why I say that is this Four of Swords says to me, although we might feel conflicted or sort of constricted, how we treat ourselves during this time of constraint or confliction is going to be key. And that's that sort of rest and solitude that I feel like we might need to give ourselves as we move through this month. All right, so let's look at the foundation card. This is what sort of everything is built upon. It's usually a card that represents the past. It's the memory of this card that sort of holds everything in place. Okay, so we have the Wheel of Fortune. This is Major Arcana. It's a beautiful card. To me, the Wheel of Fortune is slow-moving energy. It's always about sort of what we focus on is what we get. Remember, this being the foundation and this being the wheel, it's like this is underneath everything, right? Somewhere in the past, I feel like my Aquarians had an idea, a thought, a dream, a desire, and we maybe tried to get ourselves there. And we maybe could be struggling with the possibility of getting there at this time. Does that make sense? As I look at this Four of Swords and this birdcage, to me, these are not as expansive as that Wheel of Fortune would be. right? That Wheel of Fortune is full of promise and opportunity, and there might have been, months in the past where we were more optimistic about what we could achieve, and so we started to feed the wheel those dreams or those ideas, and we started to pursue those, and we were flying high on that expansive, wonderful Aquarian energy. Somewhere maybe we've lost that expansiveness. Somewhere we've lost maybe that belief. I feel like with this Wheel of Fortune at the bottom, or as the foundation, to me speaks to this idea that it's a reminder that the universe is still with us. The Wheel of Fortune is still with us. The opportunity is still there. How are we viewing the world around us right now? Are we viewing our lives as if we're caged, or are we viewing our lives as if we're free? Right? And I think that in this Four of Swords is maybe a rest needs to take place, or a reconfiguration, a restabilization of our thoughts and how we interact with our world, because this Wheel of Fortune is underneath driving everything forward. It is a slow, I wouldn't call it subtle, but it is a slower moving energy. So sometimes when we get caught in the day-to-day or the dramas of life, we don't necessarily think about what we're focusing on is what we're sort of producing more of, right? And so I feel like the Wheel of Fortune is underneath there still doing the work for us. And so if we're focusing on the limits and the constraints and the frustrations around that in the month of October, we might be actually manifesting more of that. So we want to be careful with that. Okay? This Wheel of Fortune to me speaks like to a real beautiful power that is still continuing to drive us, even if we don't feel like we're fully in touch with it. And that might be why this Four of Swords comes up in our center. If we take some time to get a little bit more, how do I want to say this, like at peace, or rest a little bit more, clear out our thoughts, not escape any conflict, but like sort of release any conflict that we might have going on internally, some back and forth dialogue or frustrations with others, whatever that may be. If we're able to release that, we kind of also open this wheel up even more so that it can continue to spin and bring us exactly what it is that we desire. I just feel like we might have forgotten that that's what started this cycle, is how I want to phrase this. I don't know if that makes sense. For some of you, you might understand what I'm saying. I hope I'm phrasing that correctly. It just feels like there was a period of time where hope was more readily available. And so we want to get back there, right? Because this is the wheel is what's driving this forward. So that reconnection to that hope and possibility is really the goal. So the next card is the higher self or spirit card. This tells me about what your higher self or spirit is focused on during this time, what it's doing. Lovely. So we have the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands usually signifies travel. It can signify love. It's definitely a fast moving energy, probably one of the fastest cards of the deck. To me, there's a speed. It is the sign of fire, or sorry, the element of fire and the element of the spirit, which I love that this is sitting up in your spirit space, right, in your spirit position. To me, that's very much in line. And I like that this is coupled with that Wheel of Fortune down below. This is sort of similar in a weird way to the previous reading I just did, which was Libra. Libra had, they had the Two of Wands in their foundation down here, and they had up here, what was it? Oh shit, I can't remember now, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, the Ace of Swords, right? So it was fire and water working together, or not fire and water, sorry, fire and air working together, but they felt sort of divinely inspired and heading towards a greater good goal, right? And to me, this is a lot of power here in the foundation, a lot of force, a lot of something. It's almost like the feeling that I get is something that was a door that was opened, right? Or an opportunity, a desire that was birthed, right? Is still out there. It's still waiting to be manifested. It's still waiting to come in. You, my Aquarians, might not necessarily see that as possible right now because of this birdcage, because of this Four of Swords. This Eight of Wands to me says, no bitch, we want you to travel there. We want you to embrace that. We want you to pick up the pace. We want you to sort of, not pick up the pace, how do I want to say this? Like get out of your own way in a way, let me guide. Let spirit step in. Let spirit be your Sherpa this month. Will that be possible? I don't know, because I feel like, how do I want to say this? I do feel like the slow-moving energy of this Wheel of Fortune coupled with the Eight of Wands, they are a little bit in conflict because one is so fast and the other is so slow, right? One is above you, one is below you. They're offering kind of both. And then in the middle here is just like my Aquarians just sort of need to sort shit out and rest. And be kind to yourselves this month, right? Because as you're kinder and you're clearer and you get more, you sort of, that rest in, this 8 can kick in. Does that make sense? I believe it does. I hope it makes sense to you guys, is what I'm saying. That 8 can sort of kick in, or that spirit can kick in and start to carry you through this and get you back onto track. If my Aquarians have felt a little bit knocked out of whack, that's acceptable. I totally understand, and I see it here in this cards. Something, maybe got in our way, something blocked us from a plan that we had. Don't let that be the final answer, right? You have your, what's the thing, the phone a friend? You want to allow yourself to reopen back up to that possibility, and you've got to do that through your own spirit and through this 8 of Wands, right? This idea of possibility, spiritual desire, taking action, moving quickly. The 8 of Wands can also signify, sort of like a love offering coming towards us, right? But to me, this 8 of Wands is also a love offering coming from our own spirit, right? And that's also kind of ties into this idea of the 4 of Swords, of taking care of ourselves very deeply during this month of October so that we can be better, energized or rejuvenated for maybe November and what's to come, okay? Because this Wheel of Fortune is still working in the background. It's kind of important stuff. All right, these next 2 cards are what I call the outside influences. These tell me a bit about sort of what can be influencing us during the month of October. They can be people, events, sometimes things more vague like belief systems and energies that are having an effect on us during the month of October. So we have the 2 of Cups, okay? Some of you are giving a fucking love offering. And I don't mean that in a bad way. 2 of Cups, very romantic card. 2s are always about couplings. To me, it's always about the deepening of relationships. This is an emotional connection. It's a water sign, the symbol of element of water in the sign of, the suit of cups is the element of water, which is the emotions, right? So we're talking about deeper emotional connections, maybe with those around us. For some of you, this could very much be a significant other, some sort of a romantic opportunity, especially with that 8 of Wands up in the soul space and the Wheel of Fortune down below. I almost want to say, and this might be for very few specific Aquarians, hopefully you're watching this broadcast, but some of you set into motion a while back the idea of maybe a purer, realer love. I also get the feeling that this birdcage might mean that some of you, and I don't know why I feel this way, it might be, again, for a very specific person, one of my Aquarians or 2 of my Aquarians might be trapped in a relationship that is not this 2 of Cups. You might need to free yourself from this birdcage. To either be able to pursue whatever this 2 of Cups and this 8 of Wands energy is, or that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting for some of you. I'm not saying that's for all Aquarians. That's just for a very specific few of you. I'm getting this hit that birdcage is a relationship that you're in, that you've been in, that you desire maybe freedom from. And the 2 of Cups and this 8 of Wands is something out in the outer stratosphere is stimulating your soul in a way to produce this desire to want to be free. And again, this Wheel of Fortune in the foundation speaks to this idea that we planted these seeds a long time ago and they're starting to, it's churning, it's spinning. So we have to be mindful of what we're focusing on and how we're manifesting it or how it's coming towards us. Because if we're looking at it as a hindrance or whatever, it's going to come exactly as that. The Wheel of Fortune will give it to us how we're seeing it. But there's opportunity here in these cards. I feel like there's a definite opportunity. This 2 of Cups could just be also for some of you that are maybe romantically linked or not seeking a partner at this time. This could just be about the deepening of your relationship to your own emotions, your own self, feeling connected in that way. And so that to me also feels very beneficial and quite fine in that regard. I mean, if we were to take the other person out of this equation, this 2 of Cups coupled with that 8 of Wands, those 2 energies right there speak to this idea of, allowing our own soul or our own spirit to come closer to us and to love us and to connect to us and us to feel the emotional sort of connection of that and feel sort of, a little bit more deeply sound in a way, right? So I like that. I really like that. All right, so this other outside influence, this is the Three of Wands. So something's about to come in, guys. The Three of Wands to me is always about like sort of, I've heard it said by another reader that the Two of Wands is when we place the order, the Three of Wands is when it comes in. And I kind of feel like that's sort of the theme of this reading, especially with that Wheel of Fortune underneath. It feels like this order was placed a long time ago. It feels like the desire or the awareness of the desire came across somewhere a long time ago. You have to pick out the desire, Aquarians, right? So if this desire was for a new job or for a new partner or for a new relationship with, your parents, who knows what that desire was for you that you wanted or that you desired, but it was pure and it was real, and I feel like it was heeded and it was heard, right? And I feel like we maybe have lost sight of it along the way, or in the creation of that desire, it's turned other situations into our life into these sort of bird cages where we might feel trapped, or we need to free ourselves now from situations that are no longer working for us. We have the power and capacity to do that, and I think that with this Two of Cups and then this Three of Wands, to me it speaks to this idea of um, being willing to sort of be intimate, be emotional, be raw, and also rise to the challenge. Like this Three of Wands to me feels like it's being delivered to us if we're willing to take it, right? But we might need to sort through some of the conflict that I feel like, or that constriction that I feel in that Four of Swords. We need to kind of let some of that go so that we can move forward freely, maybe into November. I do feel like this is romance related for some of you, very much so. And I have to say this, I'm not calling anybody specific out, but for some of you, I get this feeling that there's a little bit of like undoing that needs to take place. This birdcage is heavier for some of you than others. Like, I don't know who's watching, but one of you might be married and need to undo that. There might be children involved. I'm not sure. You can always message me at the Facebook business page if you're out there watching and this resonates with you. Don't comment on the YouTube channel, please, because that is public. All right, so this next card is the potential outcomes for my Aquarians for the month of October. This is potential in the sense that it is not set in stone. It is something that is potentially on its way to us right now as it stands, as the cards are as they are right now. But we can use this as a warning to make choices and changes, because we have free will, to affect the outcomes so that this card doesn't come to pass. But if it's a good card and we want to see it come to pass, we can take heart in the fact that we're naturally heading towards it. We don't have to do much other than just allow these things to take place. Okay, Eight of Swords. Not the most happiest of outcomes. Let me just look at this for a minute. I mean, there is compassion in the Eight of Swords, right? It is like helping somebody else out. But I do feel like there's a breakup or a departure, or there's a sadness, there's a this card in particular with this deck makes me think there is a slight amount of compassion because we have a wounded soldier that's being assisted or helped, right? And so, but to me, I feel like it's almost like these two are breaking up or leaving. Eights usually represent balance. It's interesting that we have, this is also similar to Libra because I believe that Libra had two nines. They had the 9 here and then the 9 is the outcome. You have the 8 here and the 8 is the outcome. What is going on with my air signs, you guys? So this Eight of Swords to me is not sort of the best outcome, but it might get a little messy trying to, okay. I feel like the awareness of this cage, this bird cage, or the frustration, the constriction, the contemplation that takes place in this Four of Swords that needs to take place, we need to get clear. We might need the month of October to do that. We might, by the end of the month, be willing to do the painful stuff to represent the beginnings of the separation of whatever we need to separate from, be it a job, a partner, whatever it is that we need to sort of change that is this bird cage. And again, this will be something that it could be a little bit hard because there was a time when this might have been home to us or familiar to us or completely and totally acceptable. And now at this point, it's something that's not. And so to be able to move forward, we need to start to begin those separations. We need to start to begin to depart. And I feel like this Eight of Swords, although it might be painful or it might not be the most fun, right? It is required for us so that we can sort of bring in the gifts that we wanted and the love that we wanted or the connection that we seek. These things, we have these two beautiful beneficial cards that are coming in from the outside trying to assist us right now. It's almost like we're struggling against our own desire. Because even these two cards here are beautiful cards, right? The Eight of Wands, the Wheel of Fortune. These are not bad cards. Not that there's any bad cards per se, but you know what I'm saying? These are like beautiful cards that are sort of assisting you. This Four of Swords in the center says, yes, there's this rest, this introspection that needs to take place and this stability that we want to find within ourselves. But there's also those four swords conflicting, and this birdcage speak to this idea that Aquarius is not okay with maybe where they're at, and maybe isn't sure how to get there. But by month's end, with this Eight of Swords energy, we might be doing the hard work that is required to begin those steps forward. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you guys. I don't want the Eight of Swords to scare anyone. It's not necessarily a bad card. It just is like sort of not the most, it's not the warmest, fuzzy feelings card that you could end the month out on. But I do think that there's something bigger here at play, especially with that Wheel of Fortune in the bottom and the Ace of Wands in the spirit space. To me, there's something that it's almost like, okay, so the picture that I'm getting in my mind's eye right now is we're trying to fucking reel in the biggest fish. A fish bigger than we've ever tried to reel in before. Does that make sense? And so we're not sure that we can do it. We're not sure that we can make the changes or our environment may allow us to make the changes that we need to make to reel in this new great gift, this new great desire that we wanted, so far back ago. But it's coming. And so we have to sort of prepare ourselves is kind of the feeling I get. And this Eight of Swords speaks to this idea of, okay, by month's end, we might actually be ready to really set forth a plan. The plan may not be easy. It might be a little bit painful. Separations are never easy if we have to depart or make changes. Nobody really loves change. It can be very daunting at best. But if we want to continue along this path of achieving what it is that we want, and that Eight of Wands says to me, our spirit really does want it and is willing to move it towards you, we have to do sort of the mental work and release. So I think that that's a good thing. And again, we're ending out the month back in the Swords energy, right? Which we're kind of operating in the center. So that is air element. So it is your home element. And I do think that it is, when we get through the challenges of the Eight, which bring about that balance that Eight represents, then we go into Nine, which is that personal sort of completion, right? Where we start to complete this cycle or the thoughts or whatever was holding us or hindering us. We start to get away. Don't claw at that. That's not there for you. That's not a toy. Go find something else to do. Sorry, the Maine Coon is getting into stuff. No. Don't touch that. Don't touch that. Like, you were working me this morning. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. So, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought now. I'm sorry. This is why I turned on the chat box, because if I start reading or paying attention to something else, I lose my connection. So that is sort of the vibe that I'm getting. I think that this Eight of Swords is about doing that mental realm work that we need to do, that we are, connected to in a very big way, so that we can free ourselves up to move forward to that state of completion and then start the next chapter or the next sort of bring in that next gift, opportunity, desire that we see here in this Eight of Wands. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Again, you guys have to apply it into your life where it fits. Take what you need and leave the rest kind of thing. If some of it works and some of it doesn't, that's completely okay. And if none of it works, there's nothing wrong with that either. But it looks to me like if I was to be an Aquarian, right, in the way that I see this, I see something big in the works. And I see something that my Aquarians might be scrambling to be prepared for. Does that make sense? I don't know why. Well, I do know why, kind of. I feel like that birdcage is we're oh shit, it's coming now. I didn't even think it was possible. Here it comes. Oh shit, I didn't do this work ahead of time because I was busy doing something else. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from all of these cards, and what I'm feeling inside of my body is this idea that, oh my god, this could possibly happen. So my Aquarians are scrambling now to sort of get their house or their cages in order, or free themselves altogether from the cages that exist, so that they can be free to move on with whatever this is that they planted in their Wheel of Fortune so long ago. But with any reward, there's sort of, I don't want to say risk, but there's work involved with any reward, and this work is in this Eight of Swords, right? And it's beneficial work because it's the air sign, it's the element of air, which is our sign, right? Or the element of the Aquarian. So it's you guys becoming more adept and in deeper balance and deeper awareness, having done the work within your own element, right? Becoming more complete, more whole, and more ready to receive whatever it is that this gift is that we placed in this wheel, that, the outside environment is trying to bring to us through this Two of Cups and this Three of Wands. And our own higher self is trying to bring it to us through the Eight of Wands. I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys see the patterns that I see. I don't know. I always sometimes think that I sound like a fruitcake when I do this, but when I look at these things, this is kind of how it plays out for me. So, let me just see here. Is there anything else I want to say before I sign off? Oh, interesting. Okay, just numerologically, we have 10, 8, and 4, which is 22. That's a master number, guys. So down your center is a master number. So I would say this, just because that 22 just showed up. And I don't normally numerologically run the numbers between the three cards, but it happened to show up. I did it, it caught my attention with Libra. I'm looking at it with you guys. Although it might not feel like you guys are doing much this month, you actually are. The work may take place at the end of the month, and that's why we see this rest that might need to be taken, this contemplation, this clarity that needs to be achieved throughout the month as we center through the month of October, so that we can be better prepared by the month's end to do this Eight of Swords work, so that we can get this sort of 22, number 22 mastery through whatever this lesson is. Does that make sense? And this lesson is about freeing ourselves. And freedom is something that I totally attribute to the sign of Aquarius. Like when I was talking about in the beginning of this reading, you guys being all about expansive thought, the greater whole, Aquarians are focused on support of the larger community. It's very much in line with that, right? And so this to me is almost anti-Aquarian energy. And so I think that there's an opportunity for you guys to expand, evolve, graduate in a way. And this month is the beginning stages of that. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That is your Aquarian reading for the month of October. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please, if you did, or if you're watching this on the business page, please run over to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It has been hard growing it. For those of you that are watching on YouTube or on the Facebook business page, please share out the video with your friends if you know anybody that would enjoy it. I would appreciate any shares. I'm trying to build this channel and it's just been hard. It's been a long, hard year for everybody, I know. but just even hitting a thumbs up, sharing it out, it all greatly helps. Thank you so much. I look forward to your guys' month. I hope you have a wonderful October, and I will see you guys next month. You can always join me every day over on the YouTube channel for the daily forecast. That's for everybody regardless of sign, and on Sundays I usually do charmings. So I will see you guys soon. Take care, Aquarians. Have a great October. Bye-bye.